The air on the 38th floor always smelled the same, like expensive coffee, recycled ambition, and the faint metallic scent of fear. I'd been breathing that air for 12 years, learning how to navigate the invisible currents of power that flowed through Henderson and Associates like electricity through copper wires. My name is Rachel Cooper, and I wasn't just some random employee. I was the senior director of client relations, which sounds boring as hell to people who don't understand how money actually moves in this city. But to anyone who knew the game, it meant I held the keys to every major contract that kept this firm alive. I didn't need to yell to get respect. My power lived in the quiet moments, in the nod across a conference table, in the $3.2 billion merger I'd been sculpting for the past 8 months like a damn artist working with marble. I was standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, reviewing the final contract clauses on my tablet, when the door didn't just open. It exploded inward like a grenade going off. Her name was Madison Pierce, the newly appointed VP's daughter. 23 years old with a freshly minted MBA that Daddy probably bought by donating a library wing somewhere. She walked in wearing a power suit that screamed, "I watched too many Boss Babe TikToks," and a smirk that said she thought she was the main character. This was her first day. Literally her first hour in the building. "Excuse me." Her voice cut through the office like nails on a chalkboard. She wasn't looking at the skyline, she was looking at me. Or more specifically, she was staring at my Chanel blazer like it had personally offended her family. I lowered my tablet slowly, turning to face her with the same calm energy I used when dealing with hostile investors. "Can I help you, Madison?" "I know who you are," she interrupted, waving her hand dismissively. She was clutching this thick employee handbook, the kind of relic nobody had actually opened since like 2008. "And I know what you're doing wrong." "Wrong?" I raised an eyebrow. "I'm reviewing merger protocols for the Westwood acquisition. Is that a problem?" "No," she sneered, stepping closer. She smelled like overpriced perfume and Daddy's credit card. "You're violating Section 6, subsection C, regarding professional workplace attire standards." I blinked. I was literally wearing a $1,200 blazer, tailored pants, and Italian leather heels. This was the armor of a woman who closed deals that changed lives. Alright, quick pause here. If you're enjoying watching entitled people get exactly what they deserve, you gotta hit that subscribe button right now. Like seriously, just one click, fam. Also drop a comment and tell me if you've ever dealt with a Madison at your job. Trust me, this story is about to get wild. "Your blazer," Madison said, tapping that dusty handbook. "Non-standard fabric blend. And those shoes?" "The heel height exceeds the recommended professional standard by half an inch." The entire floor went silent. Junior analysts stopped typing. Assistants froze mid-sip of their lattes. Everyone was watching this train wreck in real time. "Madison," I said, my voice dropping low and deadly calm. "I'm meeting with David Westwood in 36 hours to finalize a $3 billion acquisition. My shoes are not the issue here." Her face turned red. She wasn't used to being told no. "I am the Vice President's executive liaison," she announced, throwing around a title that didn't actually exist at her pay grade. "I'm here to enforce company standards. If you can't follow basic dress code policies, how can we trust you with our future?" It was so ridiculous I almost laughed, but then I saw it. That gleam in her eye. She didn't care about my shoes or my blazer. She wanted blood. She wanted to prove on day one that she was the alpha. And she'd picked me because taking down the queen bee is the fastest way to scare everyone else. "Go home. Change into appropriate attire. Submit a written apology to HR for this violation," she commanded. I looked at her, really looked at her. I saw the trembling in her hands, the desperate need to prove herself. "No," I said simply. "Excuse me?" Her voice cracked. "No. I have work to do." I turned back to my tablet. That's when she said it. The words that would haunt her for the rest of her short-lived career. "You're fired." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. I turned back around slowly. Madison was standing there, panting slightly, eyes wide like she'd just fired a gun and was surprised by the recoil. "You can't be serious," I said. Not begging, just analyzing the situation. "I am your superior by authority of my father's position," she yelled, her voice shaking. "And you are insubordinate. Pack your things. Security will escort you out. Now." I looked past her at the terrified faces of my team pressed against the glass walls. I looked at the $3 billion contract glowing on my tablet screen. And then this weird, cold clarity washed over me like ice water. I didn't feel angry. I felt relieved. Like I'd been waiting for this moment my whole career without even knowing it. "Okay," I said calmly. Madison blinked. She'd been expecting screaming, crying, begging. "Okay," she repeated, confused. "You're right, Madison," I said, closing the cover on my tablet with a soft click. "Standards are important. I'll pack my things immediately." I didn't wait for her response. I walked past her and headed straight for my office. She thought she'd just dominated me. She thought she'd won. What she didn't know was that she'd just pulled the pin on a grenade. And the explosion wasn't going to happen for another 48 hours. She just fired the only person in the entire Western Hemisphere who could navigate the Westwood family's bizarre handshake agreements and legacy clauses. My office was my sanctuary. While everyone else had those sterile minimalist spaces, my desk was organized chaos. Stacks of folders, legal pads covered in my personal shorthand, and sitting in the corner like a holy relic was my Rolodex. Yeah, an actual physical Rolodex. Madison probably thought everything was digitized and backed up to the cloud. She didn't understand that in the world of billion-dollar mergers, the real deals were made on personal cell numbers scribbled on cocktail napkins and business cards kept in leather binders. I didn't rush. Rushing implies panic, and I had zero panic in my system. I opened my drawers with the slow precision of a surgeon. First, the personal stuff. The framed photo of my mom. The Crystal Award David Westwood gave me after we closed the Chicago deal 4 years ago. And then, the Rolodex. I lifted it carefully, like it was made of gold, because in this industry it basically was. I dropped it into my leather tote bag. It landed with a heavy, satisfying thud. My assistant Claire was hovering in the doorway. She looked pale, her hands twisting a tissue into confetti. "Rachel," she whispered. "Is it true? Did she actually fire you?" "It's true, Claire," I said softly. I picked up a stack of files, the preliminary contracts for the Westwood merger. I held them for a moment, weighing them. These were company property. I set them back down on my desk, right in the center where they couldn't be missed. "But the meeting," Claire stammered. "It's in 2 days. Nobody else knows about the Montana property clauses." "I'm sure Madison is very capable," I said. The lie tasted sweet like poison. "She has an MBA, Claire. She'll figure it out." I cleared my browser history. Logged out of the encrypted servers. Wiped the cached files clean. I wasn't destroying anything. I was just removing my personal fingerprints from the system. If they wanted to navigate this deal, they'd have to use the maps they had on file, not the shortcuts that lived in my head. Madison was waiting by the elevators, flanked by 2 security guards who knew me by name and looked absolutely miserable. "Make sure she doesn't take any proprietary files," Madison snapped. Derek, the head of security, looked at me with apologetic eyes. "She's clean, Miss Pierce," he mumbled without even checking my bag. Madison scoffed. "Fine. Just get her out." I pressed the elevator button. When the doors slid open, I turned to Madison one last time. She was bracing herself, probably expecting me to curse her out. Instead, I smiled. A genuine, warm smile. "Thank you, Madison," I said. Her face twisted in confusion. "What?" "For clarifying what this company values," I said. "Good luck with Westwood. Those legacy clauses are tricky." I stepped into the elevator. "What legacy clauses?" she demanded, stepping forward as the doors started closing. "The files are complete. Digital files are so impersonal," I said softly as the doors slid shut, cutting off her face just as the panic started creeping into her eyes. As the elevator descended, I checked my watch. 10:47 a.m. By noon, legal would be asking questions. By 3 p.m., the partners would be sweating. By tomorrow morning, the hemorrhaging would begin. I walked out into the blinding sunshine and spent the afternoon at the art museum. Just wandering through galleries, staring at paintings I'd walked past 1,000 times but never actually seen. For the first time in over a decade, I felt free. It wasn't until 6:30 p.m., sitting in my apartment with a glass of cheap red wine, that I turned my phone back on. The thing vibrated like an angry hornet's nest. It didn't stop buzzing for 3 minutes. 17 missed calls from the office. 43 new emails. I took a slow sip of wine and scrolled through the text messages like I was reading a thriller novel. Claire, 11:52 a.m., Rachel, legal is freaking out. Madison locked herself in her dad's office. Claire, 1:34 p.m., the Westwood team tried to call. Madison took it. It went bad. She told them you were let go for cultural misalignment. There was yelling. Claire, 3:15 p.m., where are the Montana files? Madison is tearing apart the server. She says you deleted them. IT says they were never uploaded. Everyone is losing it. I smiled, swirling the wine in my glass. Of course they weren't on the server. The Montana files weren't documents you could download. They were understandings. They were handshake agreements about preserving the Westwood family's legacy properties. They were in the handwritten notes I took during our private dinners, the notes that were currently burning in my fireplace. I opened an email from the General Counsel. Subject, urgent, employment status clarification. Rachel, there appears to have been a significant breakdown in protocol. Please call immediately. We need to discuss reinstatement before the Westwood meeting. Madison is young and perhaps overly enthusiastic. Let's not allow emotions to derail a major deal. Emotions. They always called it emotions when a woman stood her ground. I didn't reply. Didn't even mark it as read. Another text came through from a number I recognized. The CFO's private line. Rachel. Pick up the phone. Name your price. Name my price. My price wasn't money. My price was respect. My price was dignity. And unfortunately for them, dignity was a currency they'd just devalued to zero when they let a 23-year-old fire me over shoe regulations. I set the phone face down. I wasn't going to save them. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. There's a specific drawer in my home office that stays locked. I walked over, pulled a small brass key from under a ceramic plant, and unlocked it. Inside was a single leather portfolio. Embossed on the front, confidential, Westwood Family Trust, primary liaison protocols. Most people thought I got hired because of my resume. The truth? I was part of a package deal. 6 years ago, when David Westwood first considered letting outside investors touch his family's empire, he had one non-negotiable condition. He wanted a liaison who understood old money. My father had been David's father's financial advisor. I grew up playing in the library of the Westwood estate. I wasn't just an employee to David. I was the bridge. Inside the portfolio was a card with a handwritten phone number. The number to the phone David kept in his jacket pocket. The one only family and trusted advisors had access to. Calling this number would breach every confidentiality agreement. It would be professional suicide. But then I remembered Madison's face, the smugness when she fired me. I picked up my phone. Dialed the number. It rang twice. David Westwood speaking. "It's Rachel," I said quietly. There was a pause. I thought we were in quiet period until the signing. We were, I said. But the parameters have changed. Changed how? I've been terminated. The silence was so complete I thought the call had dropped. Terminated. David repeated slowly. By whom? By the new VP's daughter. A dress code violation. The silence stretched. Then I heard something that might have been a laugh, or a growl. A dress code violation. Yes. And who's handling the Montana protocols? Nobody. I said. Madison believes the files on the digital server are sufficient. I heard papers rustling. Without your annotations, any analyst would flag it for immediate sale within the first quarter. Correct. So they fired the only person who knows where the bodies are buried. David's voice dropped to a whisper. 48 hours before the biggest signing of their careers. That appears to be the situation. Rachel, are you free for breakfast tomorrow? I'm unemployed, David. I'm free all week. Good. Meet me at the Carlisle. 7:30 a.m. And Rachel? Yes? Don't sign anything with them. Nothing. I wouldn't dream of it. The call ended. My heart was pounding. I had just crossed a line you don't come back from. I wasn't just a fired employee anymore. I was a player in a completely different game. The Carlisle serves breakfast with the kind of quiet elegance that makes you feel like you're plotting something important, which we absolutely were. David Westwood looked exactly as he always did. Impeccable navy suit. Silver hair perfectly styled. Eyes that had seen every corporate trick in the book and wasn't impressed by any of them. We didn't talk about the weather. We got straight to business. They called my office at 6 a.m. David said, buttering a piece of sourdough toast with surgical precision. Oh. I sipped my tea. Yes. A young woman named Madison. She sounded frantic. Told my assistant that you were unavailable due to a sudden medical emergency. Said you'd been hospitalized with severe exhaustion but had fully briefed her on all deal points. I set my cup down carefully. The audacity was breathtaking. It wasn't just a lie. It was a dangerous, verifiable lie. She's buying time. I said. She thinks if she can get you in a room, she can charm her way through the Montana clauses. She thinks I'm an idiot. David corrected, a slight smile playing at his lips. My team did some research. Your CFO is reportedly throwing office supplies at people. Here's the situation, Rachel. David leaned forward. I don't do business with amateurs. And I certainly don't do business with liars. The deal with Henderson and Associates is dead. I'm killing it this afternoon. But. He let the word hang in the air. But. I prompted. But I still need to transition the company. And I still want you running point. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a thick document. It wasn't a merger agreement. It was an employment contract. My holding company needs a VP of strategic transitions. The salary is triple what you were making. The equity package is substantial. And your first assignment is finding me a new buyer for my assets. I looked at the contract. It was everything. Freedom. Power. Vindication. The ultimate revenge served on fine china. There's just one thing. David added, that shark-like grin spreading across his face. I haven't canceled the meeting at Henderson yet. It's still on the books for tomorrow at 9 a.m. Why not cancel it? I asked. Because I want to see her face when she tries to explain why the hospitalized liaison is sitting across the table from her, healthy and employed by me. A cold shiver ran down my spine. You want me at the meeting? No. David shook his head. I want you in the lobby. Visible. I want you to be the last thing she sees before her career implodes. My phone buzzed. An automated alert. My access credentials to Henderson's servers had been officially revoked. But then a second notification. A news alert. Breaking, Henderson and Associates merger talks face uncertainty as key executive reportedly exits. The leak had sprung. The blood was in the water. I accept. I said, picking up the pen. Excellent. David said. Now finish your breakfast. Watching empires collapse is exhausting work. The morning of the meeting, the sky was dark and threatening rain. I sat in the corner booth of Brew & Co., a coffee shop directly across from Henderson and Associates Tower. Marcus, David's personal attorney, sat across from me looking like he was carved from granite and dressed by Tom Ford. We had documents spread across the table. My new employment contract. Onboarding papers. Benefits package. David's en route. Marcus said, checking his Rolex. He asked me to ensure you were visible. Visible? To the tower. Marcus gestured toward the glass skyscraper. I looked up. There, pacing back and forth near the security desk, was Madison. She looked frantic. Yelling at the receptionist, trying to make everything perfect for David's arrival. Then she stopped. Looked out the window. Her gaze locked onto the coffee shop. Locked onto me. The distance was maybe 60 yards, but I saw her body go rigid. She saw me. And more importantly, she saw Marcus. Everyone in the industry knew Marcus. He was David Westwood's gatekeeper. I watched Madison press her face against the glass. Her mouth fell open. She grabbed her phone and started dialing frantically. My phone stayed silent. I'd blocked her number 2 hours ago. She sees us. I said, taking a sip of my cappuccino. Perfect. Marcus said. Let her panic. Panic makes people sloppy. I watched her crumble in real time. She turned to the receptionist, pointing at us, probably screaming about betrayal. She spun around, running toward the elevators, racing back upstairs to warn, who? What could she possibly say? She's running. I reported. Marcus nodded. Too late. The narrative walked out the door with your tote bag 3 days ago. He gathered the papers. You're officially signed, Rachel. Welcome to the Westwood family. Now, per David's instructions, wait here exactly 15 minutes. Then cross the street and enter the lobby. Don't go upstairs. Just stand there. Be the ghost at the feast. And David? He's pulling up now. I looked out the window. A sleek black Mercedes glided to the curb. David Westwood stepped out. Navy suit. Perfect posture. He looked up at the building with the expression of a demolition expert examining a condemned structure. He walked straight into the lion's den. Showtime. Marcus whispered. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. The rain started falling, soft at first, then harder. I paid for the coffee. Checked my reflection. My blazer was perfect. It was time. The lobby of Henderson and Associates was designed to intimidate. Marble floors. A waterfall feature that cost 6 figures. I pushed through the revolving doors and the sound of water washed over me. David was standing in the center near security. Not moving toward the elevators. Just standing there like a statue. Madison was there, disheveled, her power suit wrinkled, flanked by the CFO and general counsel who both looked like they wanted to disappear. I walked across the marble. My heels clicked, steady, rhythmic. There had been unforeseen complications. Madison was saying, her voice shrill. But as I explained, Rachel had a medical emergency. She's hospitalized. But she briefed me completely. David stared at her. Silent. Cold. Hospitalized. He repeated. Yes. Madison nodded frantically. Very sudden. But I assure you I'm fully prepared. David pulled out his phone. Tapped the screen once. That's interesting, because I just received a text from her. She says the coffee across the street was excellent. Madison froze. The color drained from her face. The CFO's head snapped toward David. What? David turned slightly. His eyes found me standing 20 feet away. He didn't smile. Just gave a slight nod. Madison turned. Saw me. Healthy. Calm. Holding my coffee cup. The hospitalized invalid. The silence that followed could have crushed diamonds. She. Madison stammered, pointing at me with a shaking finger. She's lying. I fired her. The truth exploded out before she could stop it. The CFO spun on Madison, eyes bulging. You what? David looked back at Madison with pure disgust. You told my legal team she was sick. You lied to me, to my board, to your own partners, and you fired the project lead 48 hours before closing because... He looked me up and down. Why exactly? Dress code violation. Madison shrieked. Her shoes. The handbook says. David laughed. A cold, harsh bark. You destroyed a $3 billion deal over shoes. He turned to the CFO. Is this the leadership I'm investing in? Mr. Westwood, please. The CFO stepped forward, hands raised. This is a misunderstanding. We can bring Rachel back. Full reinstatement. Whatever she wants. David raised his hand. No. He turned to me. Rachel, are you employed by this company? I stepped forward into the light. No, Mr. Westwood. My employment was terminated for cause on Tuesday. Then there's no one here I trust. David said. He signaled to Marcus. The meeting is cancelled. The deal is dead. You can't. Madison screamed. My father will sue. We have contracts. Contracts require good faith. David said, ice in every word. You've demonstrated none. He turned and walked toward the exit. The doors closed behind him. The lobby erupted. The CFO was screaming. Madison was crying. And me? I stood there, calm, victorious, holding my coffee like a trophy. Then I turned and walked out into the rain, leaving the wreckage behind me. 3 weeks later. LinkedIn almost broke. There I was. New position, VP of Strategic Transitions, Westwood Holdings. The post was simple. Grateful to join a team that values experience over dress codes. Below it, one line of beautiful karma. Westwood Holdings announces new acquisition targets, citing integrity as primary selection criterion. Sometimes revenge doesn't roar. It just walks away, and lets gravity do the rest. So if you loved this story, hit that subscribe button and smash that like. Drop a comment if you've ever been underestimated. Let's keep serving corporate karma together. Peace out, survivors.